WABC radio app. Download it now. Upload the BS 77 WABC.
The bulk of the time was with President-elect Donald Trump. I found it an extremely interesting conversation and to be continued. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Thank you.
Who else through the meeting?
That's unbelievable. Al Gore. How does that happen?
Why are you here, Fatso?
How does that happen?
It's unbelievable. I don't know. I don't understand. It's the most bizarre thing. What's that? Rosie O'Donnell at the Trump Tower?
Well, he did have dinner with Mitt Romney, and he did.
Okay.
And also, even Manchin is a Democrat from West Virginia, being at least considered.
Manchin was always a very reasonable Democrat.
Right. Not Gore.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
He was only a Democrat because West Virginia is coal mining. In other words, Reagan Democrat type of thing.
Right.
And they all now voted for Trump.
Donald Trump, right.
So Manchin makes sense. But on the line with us right now, who could clear some of this up, is Fox News analyst, a noted author, and all-around beautiful woman, Monica Crowley.
Oh, my God, what an introduction. Hi, guys.
Hi,
how are you?
Monica.
I felt compelled after Trump won, and I had argued back and forth with Bernie about Hillary and Trump, and even you were great with us, great. To start emailing people like Ann Coulter, like Monica Crowley, like all the people that were there for Donald Trump from day one. And it's funny, Monica, you were on with us on Imus a couple of weeks ago, and you detailed how from day one you were there, how they laughed at you, like they did Ann Coulter, when you said he's got a real shot at winning this, the whole way through to the very, very end. So to your credit, you really saw this coming the whole way through.
Well, thank you for that, but it wasn't just me. I mean, I think most of the American people saw it too. Unlike you, Sid, most of the American people saw it too, which is why he is now the president-elect of the United States.
Touche, I love it.
It was like a week or two after Donald Trump came down the escalator, and I was on with Imus and with you guys. And I remember everybody was having a good laugh, and it wasn't just you guys and Imus. It was everybody. Everybody was saying, look at this. We can't take this seriously. And I remember going on with Don and saying, wait a minute, stop laughing. Do not underestimate him. He can pull the whole thing off.
Yeah.
And what I saw in that moment was, A, the man was different. Not a traditional politician, not a tool, not an establishment guy, somebody completely different who was an alpha male, who didn't give a flying whit what anybody thought of him, and the idea that he didn't need the job. And by the way, to this day, and I think throughout his presidency, that's going to be the thing, the underwriting principle of all of this. This man is a billionaire. He's got a hugely successful business, supermodel wife, great family, unbelievable kids. He doesn't need to do this. He is doing this for the American worker and for the country, to get this country back on track. Therefore, he doesn't care what anybody says about him. You think he gives a flying whit what the New York Times really says? No. He plays with the New York Times on Twitter and so on, but he doesn't care. He's got his eyes on the bigger prize, which is getting this country back to its traditional engine of economic growth, to its place of prominence in the world, where we can actually exert leadership and not be ashamed to do it.
Couldn't agree more, Monica Crowley. He's an alpha male, a leader, politically incorrect. The rest of you be damned. And to those who say, oh, yeah, but he's a narcissist, that's why he's doing it. Well, if that's the case, narcissists he wants to have a good legacy. So, yes, he will try to make this country great again, selflessly, if for only his own reputation, he will do it.
And by the way, on the question of narcissism, if narcissism were a bar to the American presidency, we wouldn't have had one ever.
Well, that's true. But the one thing I will say, though, is where you say he doesn't care. And this, to me, doesn't mean he'll be a good president, bad president. It didn't hurt him, obviously, through the election because he won. Oh, but he cares. When he's up tweeting at 3 o'clock in the morning about Alec Baldwin or the New York Times or Miss Universe, don't tell me he doesn't care. He is that thin skin. Now, he's a winner, and he got the job done. But don't tell me he doesn't care. He cares.
I think there is more to his method than you think. I mean, look, and nobody wants to be, constantly mocked on Saturday Night Live. Not any president, even ones with great senses of humor, like this one does. The incoming president has a great sense of humor. But think about this. Donald Trump has created diversions all over the place by using Twitter. So maybe when some sort of negative story comes out or something that's unfavorable to him, he will tweet something like Alec Baldwin on SNL. Does that mean he necessarily cares or is bothered by it? Maybe a little bit. But I think the press, which takes themselves so seriously, runs after the shiny object. Oh, look what Donald Trump said about flag burning. Doesn't he know we have a First Amendment?
Right.
Of course Donald Trump
But has there ever been a time, I know you're his biggest supporter right there with Bernard, and you love him, and believe me, I hope he's going to be great. For my 2 kids' sake, I really do. But has there ever been a time, Monica, where you said, you know what, he probably shouldn't have tweeted that. That was kind of stupid. Ever?
Well, you know what, in the beginning, sometimes before he fully smashed the existing model of dealing with the press and not caring about political correctness, there may have been a moment or two, Sid, when I went, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. But what he proved was, the majority of the American people don't care, and they find it refreshing that you actually have a leader who will tell the truth and deliver on his promises. I mean, this carrier deal, saving 1,100 American jobs, criticism on the right and the left has been very muted. And it's been muted for one reason, because they know he's creating a whole new economic model here that puts American workers and American taxpayers first. And that he's already delivered. The guy hasn't even clocked in yet into the job.
It's like Ronald Reagan with the Iran hostages. Before he even gets into office, they're already plotting to release them because they know he's coming into office.
New sheriff in town.
That's right. And speaking of which, and there is a danger with him tweeting unfiltered. I mean, there are pitfalls. He could do something or say something that might potentially be stupid. However, this tweet this morning, Monica Crowley, this one about Boeing. Boeing is building brand new 747 Air Force One for future presidents, but costs are out of control. More than $4 billion. Cancel order. Donald J. Trump. I mean, that's brilliant. I mean, he circumvents the whole dishonest, creepy media, and he gets that message out. But we're all about saving money, a nation of suckers no more, and that goes for you too, big business Boeing.
That is exactly right. The reason that tweet was so genius, everything you laid out, Bernie, is absolutely true. There's also something else. It's the construction of Air Force One, meaning his plane, right? And what he's saying is, I'm going to put myself first. I don't need the big new fancy plane. I can deal with the old plane or my own plane, which they can outfit and make secure for the president. I don't need the gazillion-dollar new plane. This is about the country. This is not me about being in a fancy plane. And by the way, Politico has a brand new poll out on the carrier deal. And to that point, Bernie, what it shows is that the carrier deal put him in a whole new favorable light, including with a lot of Democrats and independents. 60% approve of what he did. This is political and economic dynamite. But to your point, 56% of voters said it is appropriate for the president to negotiate directly with companies on a case-by-case basis. 62% said they would approve of the president offering tax breaks and incentives to businesses if it means jobs stay in the U.S. So what you're seeing is a majority of Americans now approving of Donald Trump's economic approach.
Monica Crowley, the great Monica Crowley here with Bernie and Sid. Hey, give us your insight on the Secretary of State deal. We thought we were down to the final 4. We thought Romney actually was looking pretty good a couple of nights ago, and Giuliani or Bolton or Petraeus or any one of these folks. Now it looks like there's like 8 or 9 people up for the job. Who do you really think, Monica Crowley, has the inside track?
I have no idea. I wish I could.
Honest, not fair.
I have no idea. I mean, look, Donald Trump is so genius at this, at putting on a show. Now, I genuinely believe he doesn't know, and I genuinely believe he's going about this in a very systematic. Do you genuinely believe that
there was a time when he really considered Romney, or was he playing with Romney to get back at him before the things that Romney said about him last year?
No, I think he was seriously under consideration, and I still think he is. I think he's impressed with Romney's intellect, his negotiation skills, his regal bearing, which is what you want, representing the United States around the world. I think he was impressed with all of those things. I think they have some issues to work out. You break up with somebody and you negotiate and getting back together. I think a lot of that was happening. I also think he's serious about Rudy still. David Petraeus, Senator Corker, there are others in the mix. John Bolton, who would be an extraordinary Secretary of State, who would not just handle the diplomacy perfectly, but also reform the State Department, which needs major reform because it's really got these entrenched anti-American and anti-Israel interests in there. So Bolton would be amazing. He was in there this week. I really think that Trump understands that is the most important cabinet position, along with Attorney General, arguably, and he wants to take his time. And also, I think he's enjoying the spectacle a little bit. I mean, he's building huge suspense, and the guy is a great showman.
There is that, Monica, but there's also the question of substance. Now, I happened to bring this up on Fox News on Thursday on Outnumbered, the fact that he campaigned on learning the lesson of the Iraq War, that it was a huge mistake. no more nation building, no more regime change. I heard Tucker Carlson talk to John Bolton about it on Friday night. Say to John Bolton, listen, man, you're not cut from that cloth. There's no way you could be Donald Trump's Secretary of State and be consistent with what he's preaching. And I happen to agree with that 1,000%. John Bolton would be a totally inconsistent choice for Donald Trump.
Well, let's be really clear. Whomever is chosen to be Secretary of State will have to carry out Donald Trump's foreign policy. And if they do not, if they start to freelance, which is one of the worries about Mitt Romney, for example, if they start to freelance and kind of do their own thing or whisper behind the scenes to heads of state like, hey, don't worry about it, I got you covered and all that, and that gets back to Trump or he's not pleased, Donald Trump, one thing we do know about him, he has no problem firing people very publicly.
Yeah, but why hire them in the first place if you know that their philosophy isn't in line with yours? I mean, I think that's what he's wrestling with possibly right now.
I think that's true, and I think that is part of these continuing conversations with people like Bolton and Romney. That, hey, look, we come at this from different points of view, particularly on Russia, for example. Are you going to be able to carry out my foreign policy? Can I trust you to do that? Are you going to be a loyal soldier here? And I'm sure the answers are all yes, but I think, to his face, but I think Donald Trump is an excellent judge of character, and he can read people really well. And I think he's talking to a lot of people to try to get a better handle on this. And by the way, this should reassure everybody who is nervous about Trump that he's going about this in a very methodical way. He didn't just rush to give it to Rudy Giuliani because he was so loyal and so dedicated to him. He's not rushing to do any of that. He's putting extraordinarily talented people in these positions for good reason.
Last one for me. I obviously was not on Trump's team. But once the election was over, Monica, I've got an 8-year-old little boy and a 12-year-old little girl. I decided that day, in fact, right with Bernard, I was in Washington, D.C. I said, he's my guy. That's it. He's the president. I wish him well. I'm rooting for him. I want this country to succeed, and he's the man in charge. But I can't believe how many people are not doing that. And I got to say, I've lost some respect for people along the way. Jill Stein, for example, she's embarrassing herself each and every day. And I thought she was actually a pretty good candidate 8-9 months ago. LeBron James, the greatest basketball player in the world, refuses to stay at Trump's hotel here in New York City when the Cavs play the Knicks tomorrow night. Are you noticing that you're losing some respect for otherwise people you thought were pretty cool a year ago?
Yeah, I mean, it is true. It's funny when... because we live in such a partisan and divided country, which I think Donald Trump, if he can get a booming economy going, a lot of those divisions will go away because people will be making money and keeping more of their own money and be happier. But these kinds of statements and actions, Sid, they speak more about the person than they do about Donald Trump. Yes. So if you're really going to be that petty and small and everything else, that's your problem, and it speaks to who you are. But I think Donald Trump is going to surprise a lot of people, including a lot of these naysayers.
Now, Monica Crowley, we started off playing a clip of Al Gore. I wanted to ask you, you had a great conversation with Sean Hannity last night about the global warming hoax, about how it's redistributing wealth from the West to third world nations, essentially, is what it's all about. But guess what? We're out of time.
Oh, that's such a bummer. Next time.
But that's a pretty deep topic, and it was very interesting what you said. So next time.
She's always great.
Yes,
always
you're
great.
A brilliant woman. You make us feel like a couple of Forrest Gump nitwits here.
Oh, you kind of are.
You kind of are, she says. Monica Crowley.
Excellent
on the
job.
Bernie and Sid Show.
Thank you, Monica. All the love back.
Back after this.